Wonderful.
Okay.
All right. So welcome everybody. This is our meetup for Q3. So we went from meeting multiple times a month or once a month to multiple times a month to once a quarter now. We initially started out in the San Francisco Bay Area. With the pandemic, we went virtual and global. That's where we are right now. And our focus is anything to do with enterprise, how to scale agility, how to scale, efficiency across enterprises, big enterprises. That's the main focus. We are a group of people who are engineering leaders, agile coaches, scrum masters, program managers, etc., product leaders as well. And today we have Lakshmi, and thank you, Lakshmi, for spending time with us and sharing this great information. She's going to talk about DevSecOps. Just a quick intro about Lakshmi. She is based out of the Washington, D.C. area, if I'm not mistaken, Lakshmi. And she has been an Agile coach, DevOps coach, a trainer. She has worked for big enterprises like Capital One and Marriott and others. And I've seen her do this presentation, which is very hands-on, where you can take these things and put that into practice right away, because this is based on work that she has done with big companies. So I don't want to, shortchange you, Lakshmi. All yours. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Gopal. And thank you, Ron, Rob, and Mary, I guess, right? For
Yeah.
the wonderful opportunity. And it's going to be fun. So, again, a brief intro about myself. I've been in the software industry for about 20 years. It's been a while, right? So when I started, I was a Java developer. So I come as a development background. I think about 12 years working in Marriott hospitality industry, Marriott.com, hotels, reservations. That's when I started my journey and learned so much about the programming, tech lead experiences, writing APIs, all about technical. I was enjoying it like crazy. And then I moved on to development roles in Capital One. And that's when I picked up Agile because, Agile transformation was happening around that time. And it's something really intrigued me as a manager. I need to understand the process for what my team needs. And I picked up Agile, become a state certified, consultant, started doing trainings, the Scrum Master trainings as well, and working with the teams, helping them blend with technical as well as process was really satisfying for me to help teams mature from beginner to mature levels. And so that's how my journey begins. And I have done my experiences in both commercial like Apple One, Marriott, and also in federal because we live in the DC area. So had a great opportunity to work with federal leaders and USPTO, GSA, Department of Transportation. And it really opened up my vision of how federal works and how the commercial works like so differently. But I've had a great opportunity to work with the leaders, help them with the agile and DevSecOps transformations, all that great things. So today I'm going to share with you specifically with my technical background and agile. I'm going to blend with these two, right? Like DevSecOps and specifically talking about dojos, what they are, how we implemented that in federal organizations and also in Capital One, and what is those 6 building blocks that are really important. So we're going to take a look at those. Okay. But yeah, it's a great having you all here. And again, feel free to ask questions either in between, or we can take questions late. I'm totally fine. All right. So today we're gonna learn about what is a dojo, why do we need them, what's the world of DevSecOps, and specifically DevSecOps dojos, and how to start the dojo, what are the phases of it, and how these 6 building blocks really navigate, help you with those dojos, and what are the few MVP milestones that we really, really need to consider. Okay, so with that, so glad you're here. Again, dojo means, it's a Japanese word. Maybe you have heard about it already. It's a Japanese term for learning a skill. That's a place where it's like properly used in martial arts, where the master and the student comes to learn a specific skill, right? So in the context of Agile, you might have seen Agile is no longer new, but then a lot of companies, they are facing like, okay, I have Agile, but then I'm not able to make a good progress. I'm not able to mature in my teams. So how can I help Agile coaches? We often have this question of, we do a lot of observations and we provide recommendations, right? As an Agile coach, we observe. First thing we do is observation is very important. We wear multiple hats, right? We do mentoring, we do training, we do coaching, a lot of things we do as a coach, as a scrum master, agile coach, right? Working with leaders, persuading them to do things in a different way, or, so there are a lot of times when a company or agile teams kind of get in a phase where they are not able to move ahead, or they are stuck in the same place. They are doing agile for the sake of agile, but really not able to proceed. So nothing is working them. They're getting burned down. They are doing process just for the sake of process, right? Agile, yeah, I'm doing retros, I'm repeating, my velocity and all that stuff. But then you feel like something is missing, right? I'm not connecting the dots, or I'm not totally happy, right? How do we handle that, right? And the leadership is coming to you, looking up to you. Well, my teams are doing the same thing. My product manager says, well, they're doing the same thing. I'm not seeing any change, right? And these are very common questions, and these are it's not uncommon to see, to bring a change in this kind of situation. So if that is if that is something you are currently facing, or if your organization is facing, maybe we have to do something different approach, see things in a different way. So dojos are one of the things we have done it in companies like Capital One and USPTO, and that really took a focused attention, and it's pretty hands-on. And then we did a lot of things for the preparation of dojos, for the feedback we received. So from CIO level, it got attraction, right? The traction towards that. So that is something we can take a look today. Okay. Now, dojo environment. Teams arrive at, we have different product teams, right? Some of them are data, some of them are platform, some of them are pure engineering team, some of them are production support, whatever may be the nature of the work, right? So all the teams, so we have different coaches, agile coaches, there are DevOps coaches, there are some technical coaches, right? So what we did in the beginning was to work with the leadership. First thing is, for any of these dojo sessions, or any agile transformation, getting the buy-in from leadership is very important. So if the leader is not bought into the concept of doing the dojos or any agile transformation, it's very hard for us to work with the team. So number one thing is get that buy-in from leadership. to do that, we have to explain what value the process going to bring, right? By doing this, what is that end result that we are trying to accomplish? Having that clarity to the leaders is very important. So sometimes what we have to do is we even work with leaders. We did leadership training, right, on what the agile or what the DevOps gonna bring change, right? So having that leadership training is the first thing to do. Okay. Once you have that leadership brought in, then allow the teams to do an assessment. So technical coaches, right, like DevSecOps, I was able to do some technical assessments. Okay. Assessment is nothing but like, hey, how is my infrastructure? How is my environment? How are my people? How is the team? So these are the things that as a coach, I was able to prepare the questions and then able to work with the team, understand where they are in their journey, right? The technical excellence journey, and then able to assess where they need help, right? Once we do the assessment, we know where the specific weaker areas or the problem areas they are struggling to go to next level. That's the number one step, right? So once we did that, again, go to we curate a content for them. We curate a program for them. Once we identify where the problem areas are, and then we take them into a dojo immersion phases. Okay, so here the teams arrive with their work, and one of the key things I also able to do was uh, if you ask a team to help work on like 4 to 6 weeks on a dojo experience, right? We cannot we cannot have a team ask for 4 to 6 weeks of time. It has to be the work they're currently doing it. So we cannot set aside a time for only trainings, only dojo trainings. It has to be hands-on with the work they're already doing it. So that's the another way to buy in from the product owners or the leadership without disturbing their current um, uh, activity. We are able to blend our dojo curriculum into their current sprint activities, right? So that's how we are able to move forward with our dojos. And again, it's supposed to be hands-on, and if we are only working on this on the work that is in their current sprints, right? So basically, and then with the support of coaches and other few technical folks, we were able to take them into the immersion stage and get the work done for dojos. So we're gonna go take a look into the next slide. So now, if you look into the stages of dojos, right? So there are four phases we worked with the leadership. Okay, so the number one is a nomination, preparation, immersion, and transition. So now, what is a nomination phase, right? So the number one step we did was work with the leaders, identify after doing an assessment, technical assessment, we identify teams that need help, right? So we nominated, right, who is the eligible candidate for the dojos. Okay. Once we identified the teams, then the next phase is going to be the preparation. So which is basically preparing for the dojo immersion phase. What is preparation includes? Like what is how much time it's going to take, how many hours per day we can contribute for the dojos, and then do I have all the material or the people, right? So most of the times DevSecOps means includes a lot of technical work. So few things what I did was I worked with technical leads to understand if the work they are doing in the current sprint can be done in a dojo, DevSecOps dojo also. So a lot of work with the tech lead, senior tech lead will help in the preparation phase. Some of them are like concepts like Agile DevOps, which I was able to do it. And then I worked with tech lead of the teams to work with, are we ready? Do we have people? Do we have the work to do? to particular DevSecOps work. All these preliminary questions needs to be done in the preparation. Otherwise, bringing the team into a dojo without preparation, it feels like a waste of time. So because the teams are actively working on their sprint work, and we cannot disturb the team members, developers, right? So a lot of preparation on how many hours, what is the material, are we ready? All this needs to be done. Right? Again, with the leaders, we worked with Scrum Masters, we worked with technical leads and coaches. I think these three folks and the product managers to answer their questions, to get their buy-in support. So now, once the preparation, everything is identified, we communicated that. The next third phase of it is the immersion phase. Right? So what is an immersion phase? That's the actual time the developers will work with us. Right? So they are about 2 to 4 weeks of immersion. So in the immersion phase, okay, so this is what so we do the training we do for 2 hours, we're going to implement that in that week itself. For example, I'll give you an example. You might have heard about engineering practices, XP practices, test-driven development, behavior-driven development, right? Maybe a lot of commercial companies are already doing it. But if we go to federal companies, right, not everybody does or aware of test-driven development, right? This is a really important concept. Everyone knows it, but practically it's not been implemented, right? So now what I did was able to help them. Okay, why do we have to think testing as a first thing, right? So that's the concept we started with, right? The training we gave for 1 or 2 hours, and then we picked up a story in the current sprint, the development story, right? We took volunteers from the team, okay, and the developers actively worked on the TDD approach, what they learned in the dojo session. So what I did was, like, I explained them what the TDD is, test-driven development is, the importance of it, and I gave an example. I demoed an example, why you have to think testing, why we have to write test cases first, right? And then development. So go back and forth. So that conceptually they understood. They also see the demo. Now their assignment was to work on a user story, a development story, to write test-driven development first, right? So they are actually implementing the concepts they learned within the sprint within their own sprint, within their own stories. So it doesn't look like they're working on something else. So by the end of the week, they were able to demo that assignments too, the hands-on. Okay, so what we learned should be demoed within a week. So that was a lot of it appears to be like scary and intimidating in the beginning, but then since a lot of communication, like, you are entering into a dojo immersion phase, the communication helped them. They were prepared to do this from the nomination phase, right? So because we are constantly giving them the communication, we are working with tech leads, we are working with coaches, scrum masters. So when they come into the immersion phase, they don't, it feels like they are ready. So that's very important. And again, small assignments just to get to the, to get into hands-on practice until they get a habit of doing things, right? That TDD was just an example, right? And behavior-driven development, writing acceptance criteria in a Gherkin scenarios, and then, taking those Gherkin scripts into a BDD automation, right? So that was all new for them, but then they are hearing it, but they're also implementing it, right? So, and it's okay to fail, right? Nobody's going to judge you. That failing is okay, but fail faster is important, right? And you're always, telling that, repeating that. it's okay to try new things, it's okay to fail. And that's how you're learning, which means you are actually learning something. So I think that coaching, that communication and preparation helps team members, developers to really work on it in the immersion phase, like, and they feel good about it. Like, I actually learned something and I was able to demo it. Younger developers, they want to always have this thing in mind, right? I want to do some demos, right? It's an opportunity for them that we are creating and learning and demoing to the leadership. So honestly, I felt really good while doing the immersion phase, and then and in the last phase is a transition phase where they do give the feedback, how the dojos went, was it helpful. We get a lot of retro feedback on how the overall process was. Like, was it helpful? Was it waste of time? Was it, did I learn something new, but I did not implement it? Or, well, I implemented, it didn't work. Whatever is it, we have a set of questions, and honestly, they give their opinion. So that is important feedback we get or constantly working with these teams. And the leadership also looks at that, like, so most of them, we were able to get 70 to 80% positive feedback, right? So that feedback is important because that's how they learn. And then we also keep them in the transition phase for like 4 weeks to ensure we are there to answer their questions. We follow up with the scrum master, tech lead, to see if they're actually following it in their next sprints. Like, the skills they learned in the dojos are actually implemented in the subsequent sprints, not just like once for the sake of doing it, but they're actually following it. So we have a follow-ups that we continue to follow up with them for like a month or two, right? So this whole process, right, there's a lot of things, and again, a lot of good positive feedback, things that they have never done it, but they always wanted to do it, they never got time, or they were new to some concepts. Especially in federal, I've seen a lot of concepts were new and they felt good, um, learning it and implementing it. And few other things, but we all also did was, um, the teams which are already advanced in their technical practices, we introduced them. Uh, we picked up one or two tech lead to come and demo it on on how it actually works in their product space. So rather than showing some dummy samples, right, demos, we picked up a team which were using this concept like CI/CD pipeline, like, TDDs or BDDs, automation testing. So we asked them to come and show at least 30 minutes demo on how it's been implemented within USPTO, so they can relate it. You know, so if I speak about things like, oh, we did that in Capital One, well, they may not relate it to USPTO, right? Or Department of Transportation. Yeah, each scenario is different. So the things that relates to your company, they will really understand and try to do it, right? So comparing with other companies will not help. So pick a candidate who is already doing advanced technical practices and work with the leaders and see how they can showcase their work and create these learning opportunities for the other teams. So that is something, agile coaches, like, I have worked with a lot of my other leaders, and that brought value because they were able to connect. So yeah, so these are the four phases of the dojos, and again, the benefits, if you see, right, in the immersion phase is where actually our work gets done, and you're working on your current sprint backlog, so your speed is a lot of speed potential. And again, they're already coming with a mind of preparation, so there's a lot of team spirit, togetherness, and support system is already there, so they were enjoying that, working on a new challenge, volunteering doing it. And again, we even have them do like a paid programming because it is something new. they can discuss, do as a paid programming. And then the good retro feedbacks are important, and their focus was there because you have an assignment to do and you are going to demo it by end of that week. So it was really, really focused activity. A lot of us sit in trainings, in especially in the virtual world, we don't know who's paying attention, who is not. So having this hands-on activity, and demos, I think there was automatically a lot of focus put into it. So yeah, the 2 to 4 weeks of dojo immersion phase is really important, and I think there's a lot of learning activity that happened. Okay. All right, now we can say that concept of dojos can be applicable for anything, right? So for a few examples I'll give you is in US PTO, we were about 12 coaches, 12 to 15 coaches, okay, for the whole enterprise. So we did these dojos for different kind of things. So for example, product backlog, how to build a good product backlog. That's a dojo, okay? So a lot of us, most of the teams don't know how to write epics features or how to maintain the backlog, so there were other coaches within USPTO. They worked heavily with the product managers, product owners. What is a good user story? How can I make my backlog healthy, look good? How should I write epics and features, right? All these things. Again, based on the assessment where the teams are, there are different dojos. So product backlog is a dojos. Reports that matter is another dojo, right? Because we have a lot of reports, like we have like velocity, burn down chart, right? But what is that report that really matters to you? What metrics that matters to you is another dojo, because a lot of new teams have no direction on what should I even track, right? So there was a dojo designed for that. There was a dojo for Scrumban. There are some teams which were doing both Scrum and Kanban kind of work. So there was a Scrumban dojo. There were like about 10 different dojos. And one of them is DevSecOps dojo. And there is another dojo called only testing dojo, automation testing dojo. So depending on what we did in agile coaches, where like we were creating the content for different dojos. We were working with the leaders specific to those dojos. We were helping prepare the material. We were also helping them prepare the assignments for them for each dojo. Again, the pattern is same, right? We have a training, we have a preparation, we have an immersion where they do hands-on activity, right? And then we have a transition phase. So for every dojo, I think there were 2 to 3 coaches working with teams. Again, product backlog dojo, reports that matter dojo, DevSecOps dojo, testing dojos, right? There was a Scrum Master dojo too, like helping Scrum Masters. So there's a lot of dojos. So in this world, you might be asking, why DevSecOps, right? So just a history. Let's look into the environment, complex IT environments, right? You might have seen how we have migrated from our mobile uses, right? The complexity of IT has changed. The landscape of tools and technologies that we are using nowadays is so much. Now we have cloud computing, storage in cloud, Internet of Things, right? We have Tesla cars, our operating system gets updated. We get new features, right? So all this is the environments and the landscape is changing so fast. And there is an open source community, there is a developer tools, forums, social, right? Community groups started. There's a higher customer expectations, faster time to market, high qualities, right? User ready technologies free of defects. um, and there is an advancement of IT capabilities in general with lot of infrastructure changes, big data analysis, right? When all of these things are changing, and it's important for us, especially for software engineering folks, we have to also adapt and evolve with the latest and greatest practices, right? So technical practices cannot be like, even though we moved from one to agile, if the technical practices are not moving in a similar fashion, in an agile engineering fashion, then we will be in very far behind. So to keep up with that trend, right, keep up with the technology, it's important to adapt in the DevSecOps. Development, operations, security, all have to go hand in hand. And the sooner we adapt, the sooner it is will exist in this ever-changing world of, technology changes, right? So again, stop me if you have questions and let me know if I am very fast or how is the pace. Okay. All good so far?
Yeah, I'll ask a question to the audience. Have you guys implemented DevSecOps or thinking of implementing DevSecOps? Anybody?
Yes.
Nice.
I said yes with a bit of hesitation. It's a very large organization. So I'm part of a capability group that does DevSecOps. So yes, we have without a doubt done it, but it to varying degrees depending on where we are in the org.
So curious, Melinda, are there any done the dojo sessions?
We haven't called them dojos, but what we're doing is quite similar to what you're doing. What I haven't been doing is having the time box, which I like. But our capability practice does something quite similar. It's just not what we call that.
I see. Nice. Great. Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we all try to do something different, right? Whatever works for our companies. Again, dojos is a good way, but we should do what makes it better. Customize it, call it a different name. Who cares, right? End of the day, showing progress, and then they're learning and feeling good about it is that matters. Okay, so the 6 building blocks that I was mentioning, that's really important for any dojos. So now integrated business, number one thing is how business and IT is working together. I think in Agile principles also, right? In the manifesto, we have business and IT should work together, right? So there are days where IT sits at one floor, product team sits another floor, right? There's no connection, right? Oh yeah, I get requirements and then IT folks do the development. But then is it still happening, or a lot of things have changed, right? Now an agile team has a product owner, developer, scrum master, everybody is in the same place or is a team, right? So if your company or if you're still in that age where IT and product development is not integrated, then it's time to make it as a one team. So it's very important to work together, right? Take that end-to-end ownership of process and product as one team, right? So and I'm sure you might have seen, right? Product group is separate from IT folks. The whole blame game comes into picture. Oh, why did I not do it? Well, this is product. I'm different, right? So we can fight endlessly and do the blame game of who did not do all that. But it's not going to work. End of the day, our goal is to take the product and deliver the product, right? So to do that, again, it's a coaching, it's a leadership coaching, it's all the togetherness, that integration is that matters a lot. So as an agile coach, if you're seeing that kind of behaviors, right? Leadership coaching is one thing we should be doing. Have a product owner, developer, all in one team. right? It's not easy, but then at least coaching them, right? Being there. I've seen a lot of federal organizations and some of them even commercial, right? But the product owner doesn't come to the backlog grooming meetings, right? So how are we going to help? What Scrum Master comes in, but then there's no product owner. Either he's too busy or other priorities, but then these meetings are becoming not so much efficient because you don't know what you're trying to groom, right? Groom the stories, refine the stories, or that buy-in is not coming from product owner, right? So now the Scrum Masters, right? They are good at doing facilitation, but then they need to know what is the priority, right? So if this is a pattern, um, I think that is something we need to break, right? So always engage the product owner, either. And I have also seen teams where there is no clear roadmap, where the product is going, what are my quarterly goals, or if my quarterly goal is to move from A to B, then what am I supposed to do it in this month, this sprint, break it down into sprints work, right? So that the depth of clarity is also missing. So what happens is, developers do what they've been given, but then there's one person who's always connecting the technical folks with the product, and that one person can be a Scrum Master, can be an Agile coach, can be a engineering manager, right? So, but then we have to take that role where you're connecting engineers with product owners. What is important, right? What is my roadmap looks like? As a developer, I'm developing something, but I'm also helping this product deliver this particular feature. You should feel that pride in it, the ownership of it, right? So I have also seen a lot of developers, they have no idea of the roadmaps, or they are doing a project, but then they don't know what the release dates are, right? And nobody is communicating that to them, and they're asking for like, when is it supposed to complete, right? So they are just clueless. So what happens is, well, the leadership is in the meetings with senior leadership about the project deliverables, deadlines, and all that, but the communication is not coming down all the way to the developer or tester. So what happens in that case is the work doesn't really get completed, because all of a sudden you're asking them to complete this by this certain date. It's so intimidating for them. And so it's very important to keep them informed. It's very important that roadmap should be in your like a muscle memory, right? Mentally, it should be in your mind. And constant communication has to happen. And if engineering manager is not doing it, the Scrum Master should do it. Our Scrum Master should work with a product owner, engineering manager, right? This is what my team is, have no clarity. So that one person's push is important, right? So I think it's a great role, the Scrum Master, uh, on where am I going? Where is my team going? Is my team aware? Get that gut feeling, what your team members are really, really looking up, right? And then have that conversation with your product owners and engineering managers to have that clarity. So there are a lot of problems if the team doesn't take that ownership, end-to-end ownership. It can be anybody. It can be developers. It can be product owners. It can be Scrum Masters. Because only when everyone takes that ownership, we will be able to. The teams will be able to deliver, right? So that's number one thing is, once you establish the trust, the workingness, the ownership, that's a fundamental thing, right? Then it's like, I'm there for you. I'm there to help you what you want. I feel pride in doing the work, and I feel proud to be delivering this product for this team. So that sense of ownership should happen, and we coaches need to imbibe that in their mindsets. Second thing is, again, since we are talking about DevSecOps right now, let's get into some technical things. What is continuous integration? Okay. Now, a lot of Scrum Masters, product owners, since they may not have the knowledge on the technical background of software engineering, few things, right? We don't need them to know everything, but at least things that matter for a software engineering team. I think it's a good idea for them to learn these things, right? What is continuous integration? It's basically you have these development practices, right, that require developers to code, build the code, and then once you build the code, you check in the code, commit the code. We have a code repository. You might have heard about GitHub, right? SVN back in the days, GitHub repos, right? So that's that continuous integration where you're committing the code into a branch, right? How healthy is your branch? Are you having a lot of errors? Are you creating a lot of errors, crappy code, and deploying it, committing into a higher branches? How is my health of my code repository? So that is something we have to keep a track of it, right? Which means, am I struggling to solve the errors with the crappy code, or how are my developers, my team members able to maintain the health of my code repo, right? So you can work with your senior tech leads. Hey, what are the metrics? How do I measure the health of my code repo? How many errors am I getting? Build errors, like, once you write the code, you compile it, right? And then you commit to a higher branches. You make sure there are no errors, and you only move the clean quality code into higher branches, right? So am I seeing errors in the master branch? Am I seeing errors in the when I'm deploying, building, right? Is my build failing? You get notifications if you have a CI/CD pipeline. You get a notification if the build fails, right? So as a Scrum Master or as an Agile coach, maybe sign up to get notifications about those whenever there's a build, right? And when you keep seeing all this notification of my build failed, that tells you maybe my team is not doing good practices on CI, continuous integration. Why am I spending so much time in resolving the build issues? Right? I need to keep my trunk green. I need to keep my branches clean. So what should I do? So work with your tech lead to identify what are the ways where a team can keep it clean, right? Maybe they're missing code reviews. Maybe they are not reviewing the code, or maybe they don't have a good coding practices. Maybe there is no guide what is good code, what is bad code, right? I have seen that too, where there is no practical guide. And because if you write a crappy code, it consumes a lot of memory, right? It can take infinite loop and takes a lot of processing time. So there are basic guides that should have, as a senior tech lead, should be able to give you or develop one um, basic code review document or a guide for younger coders, so they don't introduce errors into the builds. So that is something we can always work with a senior tech lead and see how my continuous integration is there. Okay, is it healthy? What are the things that I can do? What are the things I can at least keep track of? My technical practices and things like that. And continuous delivery is another one. Is my software able to be in a releasable state throughout its life cycle? Am I spending a lot of time in manual deployments? Am I automating it? How is my flow, delivery flow, right? What are the things that I can do to automate it? So understand the current process and see what does it take to take it to automation. Okay. And how am I doing my deployments? Is it via automated test, or am I manually deploying it to any environment? Is my environment breaking with the deployments? Do I have a CI/CD pipeline? Am I doing deployments at night, or can I do it in the afternoons? What is that it taking, right? I'm sure a lot of teams, a lot of us are into CI/CDs, and we have these Jenkins automation jobs. But most of the companies I have seen, like in federal, I've seen CI is completed, but CD is not completed for various reasons, security reasons or anything. But they are still depending on manual deployments or nightly deployments, right? So what does it take to take it to an automated fashion? All that. And once the deployment is completed, how am I monitoring my applications, right? So what is monitoring and observability, right? It is like, is my application performing in real time? How is it performing in real time? So if I call an API, how much time does it take from request to response to get a request, from the request and get a response? How much time? How is my downtime? Right? Even if it goes down, what is my recovery time? Right? Are we even measuring those performances in the real time? I'm sure we are, but are we, as a Scrum Master, as an Agile coach, does my whole team knows how my application is performing, right? Only tech lead might be knowing this, or architect might be knowing this. But then we often fail to communicate that to every developer in the team, because they're busy with their own work, or we don't get time to show them how this real-time applications perform, right? So take time to understand the tool for tracking your application performance. So some of the tools like Elastic, Splunk, you might have heard about all these, right? Elk, or observability tools, right? Ask your tech lead or anyone, right? Show some reports, right? Real-time dashboards. There are a lot of dashboards that we can customize in Splunk and Elastic that shows how the application is behaving, how many 404 errors are there in my application. So these tools, they're very smart tools, right? Back in the days when I was doing development, like Splunk and Elastic. So I used to look at the log files, like literally the text files, and search for like 404 error, control F search 404 error, and then look at the 404 error, and then go to my application, debug it. Why am I getting this line of error? And then understand the root cause. That was a lot of manual work, time consuming manual, and it is not even, and I might not even track a few errors. So, but fast forward 20 years, we have these amazing tools that tells us when you have these jar files, right? When you have these application files received by these tools, they tell you, oh, this application has 100 errors, 404 errors, there are not reachable errors, all sorts of metrics we have, right? So looking at, do we have those visibility to those tools, number one, and did we customize the dashboards, number two? Most of us don't have time to customize the dashboards because either we are so busy working on the sprint work, we don't look into those. The tool offers so many features, but someone needs to sit and customize it. And what is important for your team? Okay, for me, I cannot have any errors. If that is your product owner says, I cannot have even a single error, means your report should show 0 errors. And the other team says, like, maybe I can handle 2-3 errors, but my downtime should be less than a minute or less than a second, right? If that is your metrics, then are we working towards that metrics, right? So think about tracking your metrics as a real-time metrics. What is really important for an agile team? Velocity, burn down chart, committed versus delivered, or these metrics like real-time metrics? How many errors I have in my production, right? What is my downtime, recovering time if my application goes down, or how many production issues I'm able to solve it in a day or a two, or what is my SLA time if I'm getting a production errors? I'm able to solve it in one day, a few hours, or is it sitting in a queue for 10 days or a month? Nobody's looking at it. So these are the things we have to ask as a Scrum Master work with your tech lead, work with your engineering management, work with your product owner, come up with the metrics that really matter to your team. Of course, there are some guidelines that Agile provides, but then on top of it, these are the important things for you to track and show it to the leadership. This is matters for us, and we are tracking that. We have a roadmap, we have a visibility, what to do, we have that clarity, and we know what we want to measure. And to measure that, we are showing progress, by doing this, right? So that is really a good way to look at agile practices, technical practices, and especially for scrum masters who are struggling to understand these things. This will shed some light. Okay. And again, automation, automated infrastructure needs, right? All these. So all these are important for DevSecOps, right? Because our engineering practices, our way of CI/CD, our deployments, monitoring, what are we measuring from these also is very important. Okay, again, I'll stop it if you have any questions. Is it too technical or you're able to understand it?
At least I don't feel it's too technical.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Good.
Yeah,
Awesome.
other observations from others of you doing this kind of anybody else doing this kind of work, and how does it differ or the same?
As Melinda was saying, I think we're doing part of these things, not the entire stack, right? All 6 of these. So
Yeah, it's a large organization, so everybody is attempting to do everything. I mean, we use the same, sorry to do that, but you know what I mean? This is what we're all aspiring to, but different areas of the organization are closer than others. Some of it would, yeah, I'd be able to say, yep. It's very different. I used to work in startups where I would have absolutely been able to put my thumb up, we're 100% there. But working in a large organization, there are some areas that are 100% there and others that are just starting with this.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's that. So, we are at different stages. Every team, every organizations, within organizations, we have different levels of maturity here. So there's a lot to, and there's also a question of advanced teams. What are they doing next, right? Once most of them have this, but then what is the next level for them to get into? So that's something, again, we need to figure out based on the team's maturity. Yeah.
Laxmi, I want to ask you a question about how does the data ops and AI ops align with this? Because these days that's a big thing for any company. Many of the companies have portions of these things, but they're really mature on the data ops side and completely mature on the AI ops side.
Yeah.
So any thoughts on that?
I think AI is we all talking about AI. I'm yet to see the practical implementation of high operations. So, however, I'll tell you an example of AI. So I'm recently working on the Elastic side of it. So the observability monitoring tool with Elastic. So even the Elastic version has upgraded the tool for observability. So they have introduced machine learning and AI into the latest version of Elastic tool. So now we upgraded that Elastic version, and now we were able to leverage few of the machine learning jobs, which means, again, we did it for testing purposes. We have not implemented it yet in production because we wanted to see how this works. So the machine learning job basically is it's getting the data feed in, it's finding the data, it's reading the data, finding anomalies, right, where the problem areas are, and it is seeing a pattern. Is it happening every day? Am I getting like the data I got it today? It's tracking where the anomalies are, and then it's noting it down. And then the second day it's coming, the same problem happens, right? So now if it is seeing a pattern, again, we can configure the pattern too. if it happens to twice or thrice, you are creating an alert. Machine
Not
generated
the
alert.
observability portion of the things, right? We do the data observability where we can do, you know, patterns out of a range, set
Yeah.
range, and
Yeah.
ask either the AI bots or whatever. But my question was more on the, let's say you have a bunch of applications, but you also have data going in and out of companies, right? APIs, whatever, right? So from a continuous monitoring perspective, as an example, you probably need to have some kind of a way to monitor what is, you know, what is going out, whether it should be going out, things like that as well. That's where I was going with that question, Laxmi.
Yeah. I mean, that's so right. Again, these tools are, the AI is bots are coming up. I'm yet to see like the value. And again, not all companies are ready to use AI as it is, right? So there's some customizations. There is some observations that they're adding into it. But the tools have already come with the bots in place. Even I'm also hearing, it's interesting to see, like, you know, how we have Jira, right? Jira Stories tool has, you know, it is also coming up with an AI bot where you're already able to add the user story template to it. Even the bots are in the CI also, in the GitHub also. Automatic code reviews can happen. Because you know you're going to tell what is a good code and what is a bad code. These bots can really pick it up and then review it for us. So it can automate that too. So these bots are everywhere coming, but I've not seen it practically yet. But keep hearing these things. They can come in any stage of the software development lifecycle, right? In testing tools, in Git code repository tools, they can be incorporated as a plugin, right? And yeah, so yeah, it's interesting, and I think our next learning would be on working with bots, AI bots, and it's interesting how Agile and AI. Even actually, one of the what do you call? One of our Loud and Agile meetups, we introduced a speaker who is on AI. He's giving AI trainings. So he was able to demonstrate an AI bot where all he gave was like what text to talk, what sentences to talk, and his face. And the bot actually did a whole presentation. And I couldn't tell if it is a real person or a bot. Like it was so so easy to believe. It's scary. At the same time, it's also good in technology advancements, but it is also scary. So open AI, I think he was telling a lot about open AI and what AI can do and how scary it can get. Yeah. So and also he is like, if you use ChatGPT 4.0 version, right? 4.4 version, and you use a voice control, you can ask these real world questions, right? If you have a retro problem in your teams, hey, I have this scenario where product owner and tech lead is not able to work together. Help me. And the ChatGPT AI is giving you possible suggestions. Try this, blah, blah, blah. And also there are a lot of other AI tools too, like not just ChatGPT, but, you know, he mentioned a couple of things. But yeah, it was so intense to see how AI is advancing so quickly, and AI and Agile are how AI is getting into Agile, and ways we can get some. I guess our next level would be learning more about AI and how it can embed in the Agile world. Yeah, I'm interested, but I have not practically seen this AI bots, but I did see that plugins and are still machine learning jobs are coming in our tools, data and platform tools. I'm sure the observability tools, but yeah. All right, cool. So yeah, so this again, the I'm not going to read the issues and benefits of DevSecOps, but then so if you look into each of these building blocks, right, what are the typical issues we face in the current world, and how leaning towards this DevSecOps building blocks will help you in the benefits, right? What are the key results that you will see, right? You will be able to make progress, and if you get stuck in any of these, I think this is a time to focus on that particular building block and see how your issues can get resolved. But okay, now we have heard about it's all good, 6 building blocks, and I know I have to do DevOps, DevSecOps, and all this, but then we get stuck on where to begin, right? Okay, now I need to know. I know about CI, I know about delivery, deployment, observability, but what are the key things I want to focus? First things first, right? What is an MVP for me for each of these things? Okay. So if you are in a continuous integration and you want to focus on only this, you know that your team is not doing good job in CI. CI is the number one thing, because once your code is clean, it will solve a lot of other problems, right? Delivery, deployment, observability, blah, blah, blah. The first thing is handle CI, right? So what are the MVP milestones for me? Okay, now I want to focus on CI. What is that MVP I have to take care of? First things first is, are we doing merging to trunk daily? Are we validating changes by running automated tests at build time? Am I doing that? Is my team doing that? Are there any issues in the build? Errors are there. Am I able to fix it now, or are they taking so long that they are able to fix the issues in the next sprint, or they are not prioritizing to fix the errors, right? So now focus on these 3 points, right? How are they committing code? Are they doing it daily? Are they doing, what is my pattern? Observe that. Okay. Talk to your tech lead if you need more clarity on it. Hey, I don't want to understand how my CI team is performing my CI practices, just for the knowledge sake, and then keep 1 or 2 things and track them from sprint to sprint, right? If you think about everything at once, you may be getting lost, right? So I just want to focus on first things first, have 2-3 bullet points. I want to see how is my merging strategy. How am I fixing my errors? How long did I take it to fix, right? What can we do to fix it better? And how am I validating the changes? Okay, few things. Then in the midst of it, you might figure out that my team is not skilled enough to learn trunk-based development, or they don't know what test-driven development is, or they are not reviews, or there is no guidance on code reviews. By asking this, you will know where your problems are, right? And then you will know this is what my team needs. And then make it a point, maybe in an IP sprint or some downtime you have, focus on one area and solve that. Okay. Few KPIs, key performance indicators to monitor is while doing this, how stable is my builds? Is it breaking all the time, or is it stable? And how quickly are they fixing the issues? And how many number of builds am I doing per day, per week, per sprint, right? If they're not doing any builds, means that tells me that they are not committing code, or they're too afraid to check in the code, or there's something going on, right? It should be daily. You should have like 1, 2, 3 builds every day. You should get notifications and see if you're not getting notifications, or maybe ask your tech lead to keep your email as a notification, right? Average build time, is it taking too much, too long, or where is the problem? What is my unit test coverage? There are a lot of great tools that will test how the code quality, like Sonar Cube, you might have heard about all those things, right? So what is my coverage? Like, which means how stable is your code? The code that developers have written, is it actually performing the function it's supposed to do it? Is it doing the business function properly or not. That the coverage will be done by these tools, and see your minimum 80% code coverage is there. Okay, and then what percentage of it is code reviewed, right? Ask these questions to your tech lead and see if there's a problem, then either work with the tech lead, work with your engineering manager. I think this is a good metrics we have to measure. This is where the foundation is, right? If CI is not great, then it will create a problem in deployments. If there's a problem in deployments, and our even observability monitoring will all get messed up. So this is like a foundation. So in this foundation, I will only focus on these 3 MVPs. These are the KPIs I'm going to measure. And if my team doesn't know, I'll have this skills enablement. Okay? That's the one good thing to take. Similarly, continuous delivery is another milestone. What milestones I should take, right? How is my packaging happening? Am I able to dynamically provision my environments and deploy automatically? You will only have this when you have CI/CD in place, when you have automation in place, right? Or where are my manual intervention is happening, and what can we do to move from manual to, you can probably ask them, or tech lead, work with them. How much time am I spending in this manual intervention? What are my am I running any validation test? Am I doing it manually or again automation? Lot of testing am I doing automated performance tests, stress tests? What are my metrics? What are my SLAs? Am I even happy with it, or what should I do, right? A lot of these questions needs to be addressed. Again, train KPIs to measure is how many deployments failed, did I do functional regression testing, everything related to testing. Did I cover the functional test coverage, automation, pre-production defects identified, all that? So you will see that when you have the clarity, then you work with your tech leads, you work with your product owners, and see, okay, what is a good metrics for me, right? And similarly, the deployment, how am I performing my deployments? Is it manual again? Is it released to users in phases, or am I deploying everything at once or in iterations? If I'm doing iterations, what am I releasing it? Is it ready to be released at any given point of time? Am I waiting for any again formal controls? And again, manual touch points, if you see it, make a note of it and see what you can do it, what the team can do it. And if it's a downtime, how much is my downtime in minutes I can bear, right? So to have that. And continuous monitoring, again, once it is deployed and it's in production, then you have to think about how is it performing, how is my application performing in real time. Is it able to handle failures or faults automatically? Do I have these reports, dashboards, and notifications coming from these monitoring tools? If not, maybe I should customize it. My team should customize it, right? Talk to your tech lead. What do we currently have, and what are the tools? What, in my observation, I have seen there are a lot of tools does great things, but teams are so busy they don't have time to customize. They don't have time to understand the intensity of how much the tools can provide us. So not taking time to understand the tools, not taking time to communicate that to developers, not taking time to fully leverage the offerings the tool provides, it's a big problem, right? So set aside that time, either in IP sprint or maybe it's a one-time setup, but it helps a lot in the long run. So have that communication with your leaders, the managers, the architects, whoever is the technical SME, right? And then get that buy-in from your product owner, that leaders, and then get this going and see how it brings value. And you're going to track it every time. So yeah, so this is the monitoring related KPIs. And I think I covered pretty much all. Yeah. I guess I finished my presentation and I'll be open up for floor for questions.
Questions?
Questions? Anything that you are doing with this particular KPIs or MVPs for each of these milestones, blocks? You guys track this kind of metrics? Yeah.
I like to.
Thank you. Yeah. Anything that new you think you have learned, you know, or what are you tracking for metrics, and maybe the combination of these metrics and the agile related metrics? Like, I'm curious to know, like, how your teams are, how you're tracking metrics.
All right, we're not getting any answers to that, so I'm going to ask a question going back to the dojo part. Did you, Lakshmi, have any challenges in establishing dojos as a practice for learning? What did it take anything special to get the organization bought in?
So the leadership, we could only start the dojos as leadership was bought into this, number one.
Yeah.
If the leadership is not bought into this, it's practically impossible for the teams. Teams would never even work with agile coaches, period. Because, oh no, we have so much of work, there's no time for doing this agile related stuff. That's their first response, right? It's always challenging to work with teams. Oh, we know agile, right? And it's very hard to sometimes convince leaders also, because leaders also are not coachable sometimes. That's the biggest challenge.
Sometimes.
The biggest challenge is it's almost right.
Yeah.
So the biggest challenge, maybe a CIO level says yes, but then other leaders in between says no. It will be a challenge too. And even the leaders bought into this. We got the dojos and all that, but then the team is also gives pushback. No, we are getting production issues. We don't have time for dojos. No, So the challenges are there, and a lot of times we had to push back our dojo timings to another time because of the deadlines and production issues and things like that. That also happens. But then end of the day, it's the leadership who is always following up and asking for this, right? Then they get bought into it, and we did it. Yeah.
There is a hand up and there is a question on the chat window as well, Lakshmi.
Oh, sorry, I'm not seeing.
Yeah, I had my hand up. I had a question. Is in the public sector, is it easier to get buy-in because you don't have a board of directors that's pounding on predictable profitability?
In public sector, you're saying, right?
You mentioned public sector multiple times during the talk.
Yeah.
I've never worked in the public sector, so I was just wondering if.
Yeah.
And my guess is that there's other challenges that are political in nature.
Yeah. So in public sector, the work is little slow paced compared to commercial. Commercial, like Capital One and other places, right?
Mm-hmm.
The deadlines are faster. There's always a quick learning that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the public sector, right, there's a lot of process, like documentation.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of formalities,
Mm-hmm.
and the leadership also is not completely understands the agile concepts or agile
Same
value.
in public sector too, believe it or not. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So the challenge is more in public sector.
Mhm.
In commercial, it's very fast. Once the leaders bought into it, it's so quick. But yeah, with the public sector, right? It's more like convincing the leadership itself is a big challenge.
That they
But
have to do something different.
yeah, we have to lot of leadership coaching is needed there. Like to create awareness of what this can do, right?
Yeah.
But once the leaders are bought into it, I think it wasn't hard. But then yeah, see, even and the CI/CD and then the automation testing, automation provision of environments and all, it's very hard there because of lot of security controls,
Mhm.
lot of security. So they are not comfortable to do these automated deployments. Even though it brings value, they wouldn't do it. They are very careful, you know, lot of security process in place, audits,
Mhm.
lot of that takes a precedence. So even if they want to do it, they can't because of the other impediments like audit, security, permissions. And if one of the leaders says no, that's it, no. So I think there is so that is kind of impeding, while the commercial ones takes challenges. They fail, but then they also recover fast. Um, you know, they're more challenging. They're more up for new work and uh, new challenges, new up for new things, new learnings, and then faster delivery timelines. So the environment is totally different for me, what I have seen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, the other thing I was thinking of from the public sector perspective is the whole bureaucracy in terms of getting things done. You have to document even from the whole contracting procedure, any changes, all that. I think that that is one thing I've heard, even though I haven't worked in the public sector too much.
Yeah, lot of formalities, bureaucracy, lot of
Yeah.
A lot.
So there is a chat question, Lakshmi. I don't know if you want me to read it or can you see it?
Let me see the chat.
I think the question becomes, do you have any insights into the CrowdStrike incident, Lakshmi, and whether, and then if you do, do you think Dojos would have contributed in some way?
No, unfortunately, no.
The one thing I've read about the CrowdStrike incident was that there was, I think probably an executive decision, but probably a running through all of engineering decision that that changing data was not going, that they covered everything, so you could just change, you could add data cases at will without having to test them, because that wasn't going to break anything. And unfortunately, they were wrong.
True, I know it's too early for the dojo approach, but yeah, I'm curious to know too. We have not done anything from this side of it. That's a good question, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, Ron, that you mentioned that, because my guess is that there's people in leadership who believe that, but my guess is that there are people who are actually doing the real work that recognize it, how dangerous it was.
Maybe, but they apparently they had tested. Now, see, and see, I've read only some about it, but apparently they had tested their application of okay, so we can add data, and they missed the fact that know if you add one more datum, then it was the unbounded array problem, where it was I think an array of 15, and they added 16, and it hadn't occurred to anybody to test that.
I think what I read, Ron, was that usually there is the application layer and then the kernel layer. And if something happens in the application layer, the application just shuts down and the kernel is still running. So you can bring it back up quickly, the application. But here, CrowdStrike was operating as an application within the kernel, which means that it shuts everything down without a way to reboot the system. And there was no testing done in terms of, as you said, the list issue or whatever the issue is. They didn't test if it's going to create a kernel issue or not. But the bigger issue was the CrowdStrike was acting as an application, but having kernel controls within the operating system, which brought the whole system down, which means that the whole machine is unusable.
Right, but like a screensaver.
Sorry?
Like a screensaver, it has to operate at that level. And if it operates at that level, then you damn well better test it at that level. And their belief was that they had tested all the cases and they missed one.
So Ron, I'm curious, if you worked at CrowdStrike and you were told that, oh, we don't need to test, what would your take be? You'd probably say that bullshit, right?
Well, no, the statement was we have fully tested. It wasn't we don't need to test. It was we have fully tested. And,
right,
and
but they didn't test it before they rolled it out.
And no, the application remained the same. They just changed it. My guess is they had changed data n number of times with no problems because they had tested their application. Unfortunately, they didn't test their application with 17 data items when their application was built for 16 or fewer.
Understood, but I think all of us have developed software that's dynamic based upon the data. That data controls how the software works. And so in my mind, it's foolish to assume that putting new instructions as data into a software application and not testing it is going to fail. At some point in time, you're playing with fire and it will fail. I could be wrong about that, but I mean, the first thing I saw when I heard about this, I go, these guys didn't test it. These guys are idiots.
Yeah, no, as Michael says here, the staged rollout is the obvious answer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you see this kind of stuff all the time.
Right. How do you not try it? Try it on one system before you roll it out to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, you always, do like a soft rollouts where you roll it out to larger, especially if you're going to bring down the internet. I think they should get their butts sued, and if they go out of business, that's fine with me. I'm getting, I'm a little bit harsh perhaps, but I do think that they should pay for managing their software poorly. That's my opinion, though.
Yeah, Michael put in the chat his final post.
Yeah, no, I saw that. Yeah,
what I was what I had read, not 16 and 17. It turns out 20 and 21, but yeah. Yeah, exactly right. It might not be dissimilar to the Y2K problem, where we're developing in 1972. Who's ever gonna be using this code in 1999 going into that?
No, that's true. Yeah.
When are we ever going to roll out 21 data items at the same time?
Yeah,
That's not going to happen.
Gigabytes was not even invented at the time, I guess.
You say what?
In 72, gigabytes of data is like a science fiction.
That's definitely true.
Yes.
That's definitely true.
Any other questions for Lakshmi?
Yeah, we should let her go to bed.
Yeah, yeah.
It's 10
I
o'clock.
think it's
Yeah, but
midnight
it
her-
was,
I think it's no, it's 10 o'clock her time.
The only comment I wanted to make when I was listening to this, her talk was really at the team level, agile or no agile or whatever you want to call it, how important ownership is.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm beginning to think that the most important thing is like real true ownership. Back in the day when I used to work at one HP division, you know, is like, you know, treating the business as if you owned it, having that permeate through the team, so that people make really good decisions and trade-offs, and really because if you really had that ownership, then you would take on the things that Laxmi was talking about.
yep.
Whereas if you don't have ownership, no matter how much dojoing you have, once that person leaves, they're going to go, well, screw it, I'm going to go back and doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, my core rule of thumb has become software development as a team sport.
Exactly. Yes.
There's a book, I think it's called Teamwork as an Individual Sport. That basically says in teamwork, if you truly got good teamwork going, every individual on the team owns everything. They take that ownership of everything. So they may not be working on it, but if Bob or Sally or Sue is working on it, they feel like they've got responsibility to make sure that Bob or Sally or Sue knows what it is, knows that there are 21 things and when there are only 20 items in the CrowdStrike data.
Yeah.
And you know, each of us takes ownership for our team, and it's a really wonderful, the way he phrases it, and I'm not doing it at all justice, but the way he phrases it is truly wonderful.
Posted the book link.
Oh,
Did
thanks.
you find
Teamwork is an individual skill.
Yes, that's it.
Awesome.
I was on my way to giving a talk in Des Moines as I was reading that, and I pulled a quote out of that book and inserted it into my talk because it sends chills up and down your spine in the owner and what you want for your teams.
Oh, I know the name Christopher Avery. Is that a well-known name, the author?
It is to me now.
No, but I have heard that name in some other context. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't recall.
I think he gets quoted every once in a while.
Oh, okay.
It's probably an agile context because we in Agile talk about teamwork as much as we do.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So it's past 10 o'clock East Coast time.
I want to note before we go that we have a talk scheduled for Thursday, October 10th on that's going to be a workshop on story mapping.
Nice.
And it should be pretty special.
Good stuff.
So who is doing it?
Joe Kennedy.
This is awesome.
Nice. Is it every October? So how often is the cadence for this?
Our cadence has now fallen to quarterly from multiple times a month.
I
Yeah,
see.
during COVID, we used to do like 2 or 3 times a month. And
Wow.
now we used to do it like once a month, sometimes 2 times a month. And now we changed it to once a quarter. Everybody's busy. So
Yeah, and it's so hard to organize. Like, wow, thrice a month is a lot of work for organizers too. I mean, coordinating, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
There is.
Lakshmi, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
This was very
thank you.
helpful. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. I think it's nice talking to you all.
Yeah,
Stay
thank you.
connected. I think let's connect it in LinkedIn. And I will come for the October session. And do come to a Loud and Agile meetup too.
Great.
We
Absolutely.
do it every monthly though, but I think we do it from 7 to 8 EST time zone, which is 4 o'clock for you guys.
4
It's
o'clock,
still-
West Coast time. Yeah.
But I'll keep you posted. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me.
Great
Good night.
Thank you.
Much.
Thank you
Really
so much.
appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.